to take on the Chiefs. Let's take a look at Baltimore's defense here, shall we? Actually, for all the criticism that they've engendered, this is pretty much like last year. A reminder, last year they were really slow out of the gate. They started 1-2, but they finished 12-5, won the AFC North, and they ended up allowing the fewest yards per rush in the NFL. So why have they been struggling so much lately? RC, how do you diagnose it?
I think the first thing is, obviously, last week you don't have Nnamdi Madubuike, right? And that's huge when you look at the way that Detroit was able to dominate them in the run game in between the tackles. But the other piece of it is, for me, like when your best players don't play like your best players, it's an issue. And if you look at Roquan Smith in that last game, he just wasn't there. He wasn't physical. He wasn't diagnosing. He wasn't anticipating. He wasn't impacting the game. And that worries me because, to me, that's now a year and 3 games. He hasn't looked like himself. And the Detroit Lions weren't scared to go for it on 4th down, weren't scared to take chances because you couldn't stop them. And so how is Zach Orr going to figure out a way to get Kyle Hamilton more involved, to get Roquan Smith more involved, but also find ways to make plays in critical football moments? Because we haven't seen that from them against Buffalo in week 1 or last week against Detroit, the 2 good teams they've played.
Yeah,
you guys know the phrase iron sharpens iron? Yeah. The Ravens' run defense against the Chiefs' rushing attack is like cotton softens cotton or something. Like, it's the opposite of that. Whoever fails in this matchup, we are going to feel so terrible about, like, if the Chiefs can't run on Baltimore, they can't run on anyone. If Baltimore can't stop the Chiefs, that's a problem. I'm interested in seeing from, Ryan, you mentioned Zach Orr. He made that brilliant midseason adjustment last year to fix the pass defense. I want to see if he has a card to play in the run defense. Madubuike being out, it hurts them a lot structurally. Do they maybe play a safety a little bit closer to the box? Do they switch it up with the linebackers that they're starting? It feels like something has to change, and it feels incumbent upon the defensive coordinator to figure this out.
All right, so
I know iron sharpens iron is Proverbs 27:17. I don't know cotton sharpens cotton.
Wow, that's
Mina Kimes
1-1. love the Bible knowledge. That's really good. Can you give me some football knowledge?
Yeah, I tried.
How do they face? Listen, they have a terrible record there. Terrible one against Mahomes. How do they rectify that?
Well, I think if you're the Ravens defensively, there's 2 things that you're like, hey, we're going to stop this. One, stop the 2x2 RPO out of Kansas City. I would say that's probably the thing that they feel most comfortable running. And I would tell you it's not overly exotic. You know, they're going to get into the shrunk splits and they're going to run sticks or outs or motion and run it out or stop. So it's not overly exotic. And I think the second, so this is their 2x2 RPOs. You know, they're like, RC, you know this. They're just going to try to get cut splits. They're going to motion. And if there's one safety in the field, Patrick's going to throw the football. And they're kind of mirroring it side to side. So Patrick sees that one safety. And if he likes the leverage up top, he'll throw it. If he likes the leverage down at the bottom. So I would be interesting to see, like, does Baltimore put some pressure on them, try to get outside and get hands-on? Or if there's 2 safeties, then you got to stop the run, because that's really all they've done. Obviously, you got to stop Patrick's legs. You know, easier said than done, so the discipline of the pass rush. But there's nothing right now that I sit there in Kansas City's offense and be like, whew, you don't stop this, you're going to get beat.
Although, wait, we got some good news in. Yes. And NFL Live. Yes, Xavier. Thank you. You're
welcome.
Help is on the way, Xavier. So why don't you take this?
I didn't know it was up there for real. My bad.
But this is good news, right?
No, this is excellent news. And I think it's excellent news because of Tyquan Thornton's emergence.
Yep.
Right? You know that you have another valuable threat at the receiver position. Now you added Xavier Worthy to that. And I want to see if they're going to utilize him in that role we saw develop down the stretch, where it wasn't all about taking the chunk shots. It was about putting the football in his hands early.
I love it. RC breaking news. Let's go.
It was an accident.
Oh, that's good.
I read social media when I'm driving in my car.
Well, while you're passengering in your car. Okay. First start for the winless team this Sunday, facing the 3-0 Chargers at the Meadowlands. So it's time to build out a play sheet presented by ESPN Bet Sportsbook, and for that we turn to Mina. Okay, Mina, if you could start with Dart, over under 189.5 passing yards.
I'm going under, and a lot of this has to do with the competition. This Chargers defense is really good. In fact, the last 2 games against Vegas and Denver, they have held those quarterbacks to significantly under this total. It's a difficult spot for a rookie quarterback, so I'm going to go under. Doesn't mean he's going to play poorly. Passing touchdowns, 1.5. Herbert's averaging 2 per game, so I will go over here. I think he's really found something with Quentin Johnson as a red zone target. Also, Quentin Johnson's just been so much improved in general. But yeah, I think Herbert managed to throw at least a couple in this one. That said, I'm going to go with the Marion Hampton for my anytime touchdown. Speaking of people gaining momentum, I talked about Johnson. Hampton is coming off of his best start, of the season, and he did have a rushing touchdown last week. He is now the unquestioned bell cow back in this running back room in Los Angeles. So give me some continued improvement and give me Hampton scoring when he gets a chance.
Yeah, he has the most scrimmage yards by a rookie this season, Omarion Hampton. So we're looking at plus 496, so a $10 bet pays out $49.60. Mina, we're just trying to make people some money here. ESPN Bet Big Club is your gateway to exclusive rewards, weekly offers, and exciting monthly getaways.
Week 4 of the 2025 NFL season is here, and our NFL analysts have you covered in the 11th hour. Don't miss our last-minute prep for a loaded slate. First, analytics writer Seth Walder breaks down 3 stat trends that could be pivotal this weekend. Then fantasy football writer Eric Moody runs through 5 players who are rostered in under 50% of ESPN fantasy football leagues as of Saturday and could be started in a jam. That's followed by NFL analyst Matt Bowen predicting 3 potentially big surprises and sports betting analyst Pamela Maldonado giving her favorite bet for Week 4. Will Bears receivers DJ Moore and Rome Odunze put up big numbers? Could Texans edge rushers Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter get after Cam Ward? Which 2 quarterbacks might be good fantasy sleepers? And should we expect the Chargers to not only win but also cover against the Giants in quarterback Jackson Dart's debut? Let's dive in short. Oh yes. The Texans rank 3rd in pass rush win rate this season, 49%, while the Titans are below average in pass block win rate, 57%. Star rushers Anderson and Hunter both rank in the top 10 in pass rush win rate at edge and each have multiple sacks on the season, despite the fact that Houston is winless. And critically, rookie quarterback Cam Ward is taking sacks at a massive 13% rate, 3rd most this season and higher than any QBR qualified quarterback last season. It's easier to get sacks when leading, and we certainly should expect that to be the case Sunday. My sack model gives Anderson, 59%, and Hunter, 57%, strong chances to record at least 1 sack. No other pass rusher is over 52%. Each player has a 22% chance to record 2 sacks or more. ESPN's receiver scores returned this week, and Moore was surprisingly the number 1 player. It was a surprise considering Moore's start to the season has been relatively pedestrian, 12 receptions for 135 yards and a touchdown. But the open score indicates Moore, and perhaps the scheme, has been doing its job, so there could be a whole lot more yards in his future. The spike could start as soon as this week. Though Moore moves around in his alignment, he plays as an outside receiver on the left side more than anywhere else. That should match him up against Raiders cornerback Q Blue Kelly, who has allowed 1.5 yards per coverage snap, according to NFL Next Gen stats. That is not only much higher than average for an outside corner, but it's also the highest among Raiders defenders with at least 75 coverage snaps this season. The whole world knows the Eagles like to run the ball and do it well. They have the third lowest pass rate over expectation, per NFL Next Gen Stats, this season and rank first in EPA per designed carry. But the Buccaneers are a particularly stiff challenge on that front, as they rank first in defensive EPA per designed carry. Tampa Bay's 3 opponents have averaged minus 0.03 EPA per play when playing other teams this season, but minus 0.30 against the Buccaneers. Philadelphia's most common run type is outside zone, 44%, and the Bucs have proven adept at stopping it, allowing just 2.4 yards per carry to opponents running outside zone this season. Whichever team's strength wins out Sunday will have the upper hand in this matchup. Ford doesn't offer much rushing upside, but he throws to one of the league's best wide receiver tandems in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. He gets a favorable home matchup against a Colts defense, too. The Rams' offensive line should provide solid protection against a Colts front that ranks 29th in pass rush win rate. Establishing the run could set Stafford up to capitalize through the air, especially with Indianapolis missing cornerback Kenny Moore too. That I'm still licking my wounds from the Rams plus 3.5 that I went with last week. But this week, rookie Jackson Dart is a wild card in his first start. He's mobile, creative, and the kind of rookie who can make something happen when the play breaks down. But debuts are rarely smooth, and this is a brutal draw. Through 3 weeks, the Chargers have allowed just 5.5 yards per pass and the lowest completion rate on deep throws in the league. They're disciplined on the back end and stingy inside the 20-yard line, giving up touchdowns on only a quarter of opponent red zone trips. LA quarterback Justin Herbert, meanwhile, should have a clean pocket all afternoon. The Giants lead the NFL in blitz attempts, 50, but they rarely get home. And Herbert is excellent against the blitz, averaging 10.2 yards per attempt. The QB experience gap, plus a red zone and third down edge that tilt heavily to Los Angeles, make this a strong spot for the Chargers to cover. Kansas City, Steve Spagnuolo knows how good an unexpected laugh can be for his players. Throughout last season, the Kansas City Chiefs' longtime defensive coordinator would, on occasion, have Louis Adazio, the unit's quality control assistant, put together a highlight package of old clips of Chiefs position coaches playing days, each one a treat for the players to watch. Players laughed when they saw grainy footage of defensive line coach Joe Cullen as a nose tackle or linebackers coach Brendan Daly as a tight end point. One of the most memorable moments, linebacker Leo Chenal said, was when it was time for Adazio to showcase Spagnuolo's film. "It's in black and white," Chenal said, smiling. Spagnuolo was a 2-year starter at wide receiver at Springfield College in Massachusetts. But those details are not what surprised the players the most. Most shocking for Chiefs defenders, including pass rusher Chris Jones, safety Brian Cook and linebacker Nick Bolton, was what position Spagnuolo played before college. "They wouldn't look at me and say, he was a quarterback," Spagnuolo said, laughing. Yes, Spagnuolo, one of the NFL's greatest defensive minds, a strategist known for his complex blitzes and the lone coordinator in history to have 4 Super Bowl rings, including titles with 2 different franchises, was once a high school quarterback, sometimes, often in passing when he's just talking ball with his players. Spagnuolo will mention to them he was a pretty good quarterback, too. 2 years ago, Chiefs cornerback Trent McDuffie had that exact experience. "I thought he was a running back because I played running back in high school," McDuffie said of Spagnuolo, 65. "He said quarterback and I was like, ah snap. Okay, Spags. The leader of the team. It makes sense, just how smart he is and how much he understands offenses. When he said that, I was like, ah, I see. It was pretty cool to learn about that."